His Excellency Karslıoğlu, dear Dr. Born, dear Professor Rohol, distinguished panelists and audience, dear colleagues, guests, and students. Firstly, as the director of TÜSIAD Berlin and Turkey Culture of Change Initiative, I would like to extend my warmest welcome to you all. Today we gather here at ESMT premises for the panel discussion organized by TCCI, TÜSIAD Chair in European Economic Integration. German companies are global leaders in the development of new technologies. Research and development are the cornerstones of the future of the German economy. The public and private sectors have made a significant commitment to spend around 3% of national GDP per year on R&D activity in Germany. This amounts to approximately 70 billion euros R&D spending annually. On the other hand, Germany enjoys an excellent reputation regarding its dynamic and innovative R&D environment. One example would be the Innovation Union Scoreboard, which is used by the European Commission as an instrument for evaluating the innovative performance of European nations. It is important to note that while Germany is one of the innovation leaders, Turkey is among the modest innovators. In Turkey, the share of gross domestic expenditure on research and development in 0.9%. Although there is an increase of around 17% in comparison to the previous year, for Turkey, there is still a long way to go. Turkey ranks among the top 20 countries for R&D spending and second only to China in terms of R&D expenditure growth. Moreover, the share of the private sector in R&D expenditure is significant. R&D expenditures are defined by World Bank as current and capital expenditures on creative work undertaken systematically to increase knowledge and the use of knowledge for new applications. According to Turkish Statistical Institute's 2012 figures, 45% of R&D expenditure was performed by business enterprises, while 44% by higher education like universities, and only 11% by government. It is also important to underline that Turkish research and innovation efforts are also benefiting from the EU budget support. The main instrument in this regard is the 7th Framework Program for Research and Development. Dear guests, German federal government promotes research in Germany through the so-called High-Tech Strategy 2020 Action Plan in order to meet global challenges in advance and use the opportunity for Germany to establish itself as an integrated industry lead market and provider. Considerable support is granted particularly to key technologies that act as innovation drivers. The fourth industrial revolution has already begun. One of the so-called forward-looking projects identified by the German government is the Industry 4.0. What does Industry 4.0 mean exactly? Put simply, it represents the coming fourth industrial revolution on the way to an Internet of the Things, data and services. Hence, Industry 4.0 represents a paradigm shift from centralized to decentralized production in the sense that the production machinery no longer simply processes the product, but the product also communicates with the machinery. This is made possible via technological advances that are paving the way to a new technological age. This year's CeBIT fair in Hanover demonstrated a series of practical examples to make Industry 4 tangible. No other country has more ideal conditions than Germany to become a global leader in innovation, innovative internet-based technology and service provision. A highly efficient and competitive system of science is necessary if Germany is to maintain its leading position in the international competition. Together with the federal states, the federal government supports the major research organizations such as the Max Planck Gesellschaft and the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft, as well as the joint institution of German universities, DAAD, to promote foreign relations in the higher education and research. The Turkish research system, on the other hand, is quite centralized and led by the Supreme Council of Science and Technology as the highest level policymaking and coordination body. The Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey is the main responsible for improving the research environment in Turkey, providing scientific advice to the government and acting as the secretariat of the Supreme Council. The other organization which has undertaken a similar role in Turkey is the Turkish Academy of Sciences. Dear guests, as you may have already heard, Turkey set itself some very ambitious economic goals for 2023, the centennial of the Turkish Republic. Radical changes are necessary to achieve these goals by increasing Turkey's competitive power due to R&D activities, innovation and branding. Thus, Turkish government aims to increase its budget allocation to R&D up to 3% by 2023. Turkey is undertaking reforms and investing in R&D in order to create an atmosphere conducive to high production activity and a value-adding economy, since the eventual goal is to become one of the 10 largest economies in the world by 2023. Turkey can learn a lot from the successful German experience. Under the light of this background, we highly appreciate the recently finished German-Turkish Year of Research, Education and Innovation. Throughout the year 2014, following the motto Science Bridging Nations, Turkey and Germany sought ways for drawing attention to and expanding German-Turkish partnerships in research, education and innovation. To initiate new projects that go beyond the Year of Science, Turkish and German authorities initiated an ideas competition whereby 100 projects were selected. A milestone was certainly the official inauguration of the Turkish-German University by President Gauck. A further flagship project for German-Turkish cooperation is the German-Turkish Advanced ICT Research Center, which is a jointly established research institute in Berlin and Istanbul, supported by the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research and the Turkish Ministry of Transport, Maritime Affairs, as well as leading companies in Germany and Turkey. The main objective of the Research Institute is to conduct research towards innovation in key sectors. To sum up, we all need to keep up with the good work. As Turkey Culture of Change Initiative, TCCI, we are also striving to provide another open platform of dialogue on bilateral collaboration in research and industry. We are convinced that further concerted efforts will be essential in the future for creating a constructive research agenda and a win-win atmosphere for German-Turkish cooperation. Thus, Turkey's and Germany's economies will be fit to meet the contemporary global challenges of the new technological era and to continue to grow through innovation. With this consideration in mind, I would like to thank you once again for being here and look forward to a lively and interesting discussion. Now, I leave the floor to Mr. Ambassador Kaslıoğlu.
Well, good afternoon. That was a substantive statement you have made, Mr. Uçok, that I can't much add to it. Indeed, I'm privileged to be here among you. But first of all, let me convey my deep condolences to the tragic event today, the accident or the airplane crash today in France, which have victims, many Germans, many Spanish, also Turks among them. Today's subject, you have mentioned it, how important it is for the future, for the business. Indeed, the economic growth comes only with more innovation now. And in the long term, if we don't have the capacity to innovate and adapt it with the economy, there is no way out. We know that from Turkey. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the past 10 years, we had this, in a way, the Turkish wonder, Turkish Wirtschaftswunder, some call it, the 5% annual growth we had in the past 10 years, which is a big milestone for us. But we know if we are not going to continue, but we know we can't continue like this. We have become trapped in this middle income gap or middle income trap. And to leap forward, we have to move on with our research and development. As you mentioned, Mr. Uçak, we have been not giving too much on research and development. It was 0.2 of the gross national income. And this has steadily been increased to a 0.9 level. But at the same time, considering that the span or the width of the Turkish economy had more than threefold increased, that means the increase is more than tenfold in the past 10 years. However, that is not enough. As you mentioned also correctly, the developed countries have 3% of their brutto, of their GDP on research of development, which we aim to. However, in the past year, this increase has been lacking. We are aware of it. And if we want to come much further, we have to continue. On the other hand, there are some signs which are giving us promises. As you mentioned, the German university, cooperation with Germany has been increased. Mr. Albayrak will tell us probably about the events which they had last week in Ankara, the closing event of the Turkish-German cooperation year on science. We are, in this respect, hopeful. We can complement our forces together. The Turkish strength or the Turkish youth strength in innovation, its willingness to take risk, and its willingness to go further and adapt the developments in research. And at the same time, the German know-how, as you mentioned, the German capacity of development, but not having the young capacity or the young people to use it in the industry and use it in third countries, there we can complement each other. We have everything what Germany needs, and Germany has everything we have, or we need. That means we can complement each other. The 3 million Turks here and who are working here have become more or less a German citizen and part of Germany. Most of them are interested of doing business with Turkey, and this strength should be used. More than 75 Turkish entrepreneurs in Germany. They are a backbone for us, and I am encouraging these young Turks to do business, become entrepreneurs, and become, instead of staying idle, be a Fachkraft, as the Germans call it, to study, to learn some skills which they can apply in their life. And unfortunately, we have not reached the level we wanted to. But more and more young Turks have understood that they have to learn something more tangible, and we are working on it. Not everyone has to become a scientist, but to use the science in life, in real life, they are very much eager to do that. And we are working with them in schools, and also encouraging them through our consulates to become part of this process. Now, what is lacking is this systematic togetherness of the German side and the Turkish side to bring them through mechanisms together. In that respect, Mr. Albayrak's efforts we appreciate very much, that with the scientific year we have made some progress. And with the next coming JETCO, or this joint economic cooperation with Germany and our ministry in Turkey, economy ministry, I'm confident that we can use this tool to bring us together in science, technology, economy and business. And I'm looking forward for the trip of Mr. Gabriel next month to further improve this mechanism of strategic dialogue. This is our hope, and I'm sure Mr. Tolksov will tell us more about the visit of Vice Chancellor Gabriel to his visit. Energy is a sector where we can work all together to further develop this cooperation. And of course, some more practical use of this mechanism has to be followed, has to be found out. Instead of making talks, we have to do business, real business. And there I'm confident we can overcome minor issues which are hindering this cooperation. But events like this may us show some ways and the way out how we can cooperate more. So in this sense, I thank you for this invitation, and I wish you successful talks. Thank you.
Excellency, dear Mr. Ütschok, dear panelists, dear guests, it's a great pleasure to welcome you here to the panel discussion, Growing Economies Through Innovation, German-Turkish Collaboration in Research and Industry. We are particularly delighted to have you here for a number of reasons. The main reason being that TÜSIAD and ESMT have a very strong collaboration, a very strong joint activities, and I will talk about some of them more. They fit very well in this overarching framework of research and industry, of collaboration. This in particular is based on the pillars that ESMT views as being important for distinguishing itself from, or differentiating itself from other business schools, from other universities. These three pillars comprise leadership and social responsibility. Second, European competitiveness, so how we can use the forces that lie in technology to actually make Europe competitive. And the third part, obviously related to this, the management of technology. So the question of how technology can be used to sustain competitiveness in different countries. We have had from the very beginning a very strong focus on looking eastward, looking to Eastern Europe, Southeastern Europe. So it's quite natural for us to have a very strong link to Turkey. And you can see this in various forms. We have a number of students from Turkey. We have professors from Turkey. We have program directors from Turkey. We have joint activities in, for example, our EMBA students going to field trips to Turkey to learn from Turkey. We have a number of aspects that actually, given all the differences, make the Turkish economy and the German economy look fairly similar. And this is the strong dominance on family-owned business. So the importance family-owned business has both in the Turkish and in the German economy. So all of this being very strong sources for the collaboration. The strongest piece of that, and this has not been mentioned yet, but I'm very pleased to do so, is that TÜSIAD also has a chair here at ESMT, the TÜSIAD chair for European economic integration, that is held by my colleague Professor Stefan Wagner, who will also be the moderator of the panel discussion. And that brings together many of these aspects that I just mentioned. So in particular, when we think of Professor Wagner's research on the question of innovation, intellectual property rights, management and protection, these are all very important elements when we think about innovation, when we think about industrial competitiveness and how to bring economies further. Excellency, you mentioned the expenses Turkey has for, with respect to its GDP on R&D. While Germany may look better on that, I would still argue that also the numbers here could be much higher than they currently are. Investments in R&D should actually be higher. They should be increased to, again, increase competitiveness in the long run to provide the role that a country can play, or that actually to fully develop the potential a country can play. And technology plays a very important role here. We have acknowledged this here at ESMT by creating a number of initiatives. We have our own tracks in our degree programs concentrating on technology, on innovation. In particular, we founded at the beginning of this year the so-called GTech, which is the German Technology Entrepreneurship, German Tech Entrepreneurship Center. So a center that is meant to foster, to support young startups in their endeavor to become bigger. And if I could just close by adding one wish here, a wish that Professor Wagner and myself have expressed for quite some time. It would be fantastic to have among those young entrepreneurs who are part of our GTech a Turkish entrepreneur. So someone who actually, as Your Excellency said, who comes from a science background and brings in the science background for bringing forward a business idea that can build on this scientific basis. So if this, I mean, so the center, it has been opened, but the physical space will only be available in June. So it would be fantastic if one of those companies that will find their places there will actually originate from Turkey and will have a Turkish entrepreneur there, showing the great innovation that comes from the rapid development we've seen in Turkey. So in that sense, I wish all of us a very fruitful debate here tonight. As I said, we are very thankful for the great collaboration we have with TÜSIAD. Look very much forward to fostering, to bringing it forward. Seeing actually lots of initiatives which I even didn't mention in detail. For example, the exchange the CEOs, German and Turkish CEOs had in Berlin, in Ankara, potentially maybe at some point also at ESMT for the next time. So in that sense, again, warm welcome to ESMT for this very interesting, very hopefully very insightful debate. And with this, I may just briefly introduce our speakers, our moderator. As I said, the moderator will be my colleague, Professor Stefan Wagner, Associate Professor of Strategy and the TÜSIAD TCCI Chair in European Economic Integration. The speakers will be Professor Zain Al-Bayrak, Head of the Asian Technologies Chairs at the Technical University of Berlin, Mr. Helge Togsdorf, Director of EU Enlargement, Southeast Europe, Turkey, from the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy, Wirtschaftsministerium, and Mr. Peter Webers, Head of Division 212, which includes the cooperation with developing and advanced developing countries, Africa and Near East, from the Federal Ministry of Education and Research. So a warm welcome to our speakers, and please join me in warmly welcoming all of them.
It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this panel discussion here on the topic of economic growth and innovation. As you can see, we have 4 chairs on the panel. Initially, we started out with inviting 4 discussants, so we would have needed 5 chairs. Unfortunately, as the situation looks at the moment, we only need 3 chairs because Mr. Webers is on his way, but we don't know where he currently is. So my suggestion is we just start the discussion with Mr. Togsdorf and Mr. Al-Bayrak, and then hope that Mr. Weber will join us to a later stage. Then Before we start the discussion, economic growth is currently what many states are looking for against the backdrop of the current financial situation and so forth. And if you think about economic growth, that can in principle be achieved by various things. If you look in the economic literature, economies can grow by expanding the number of their trading partners. And I think that is a dimension where the relation between Turkey and Germany already is doing relatively well on the joint trade. Another means of growing economies comes from innovation that seek to increase productivity, enhance the level of products available, increase competitiveness. And I would like to have this discussion focusing on what's going on joint innovation efforts. And I think from my perspective, there are two large dimensions that I would love to cover in this discussion. One is coming from the institutional level. What needs to be done on really top-down institutions to foster joint initiatives when it comes to innovation between the two countries, like the German-Turkish Year of Science or the establishment of the German-Turkish Innovation. The other thing I would like to cover is the agents of innovation. I mean, institutions is one thing, but innovation always lives from individuals driving the innovation. And I think that's another dimension we should cover in this discussion. How can the two economies really make people work together in joint innovation efforts? And having said this, it is my great pleasure to welcome the two discussants that we currently have on the panel, Professor Al-Bayrak and Mr. Tolksdorf. So I would like to invite you to give a brief introduction of yourself and a brief statement of how you perceive the current state of the collaboration when it comes to innovation between Germany and Turkey. And then we move on to a discussion that we also invite the audience to bring in questions. So we would be very happy to have a very interactive discussion later on. So without further ado, maybe we start alphabetically. Professor Al-Bayrak, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Okay, thank you very much for your invitation. I'm very happy to have been here. Let me introduce myself. I'm professor at the Technical University of Berlin. I have a chair. On the other hand, what many people don't know, I'm scientific director of one of the largest laboratories for the distributed artificial intelligence. That means the future Internet of everything, where we are developing systems. I mean, everybody talking about Industry 4.0, Internet of everything, Internet of things. We are using different terminology, but in the end of them, we need a new behavior of the systems where the system, that means hardware and software together, has intelligent behave. Other hand, I'm really very proud to have been scientific director of one of the institutions which is called German-Turkish Institute of Technology for Information Communication Technology, which is created through German government and Turkish government, which is located in the two beautiful cities. One is in Istanbul, other location is in Berlin, where scientists from both countries working together on different subjects. Another issue where I'm very active, it is an innovations center which is supported through the Minister for Economy and Energy, which is called Connected Living, where we have more than 60 members where we are working together. If you see the later one, when I described the innovation, we need an ecosystem. Therefore, it is organizations like Innovation Center, where we bring all of those players together, is very important for us. My background, I'm born in Turkey. I know both countries. Therefore, I like both countries, and I grow in Turkey, and I'm professor here in Germany. I am collaborating with my colleagues in Turkey. I'm offering people, high potential students from Turkey to do their PhD or to do their postdoc in our university. We have several collaborations with Turkey, with Turkish colleagues, and I have excellent experience with them. As our ambassador mentioned, I'm really fully convinced we have two cultures which is enhancing each other, which makes both together very strong. And I am using that. I am using that. And at the time when I proposed Mr. Shaman to select Turkey as partner country for science, technology, and innovation, she asked me why. I explained her, so exactly I argued that what our ambassador described, it is really, it can fit each other. And so short overview about our activities, that means we have another thing, I am involved in the German-Turkish University in Istanbul. We are supporting the university. We hope it will be, in direction of education, it will be another instrument which help us to cooperate with each other.
Yeah, thank you very much. So here we have one of the drivers of the joint innovation efforts between Turkey and Germany. On my right-hand side, there is one of the enablers of the joint innovation efforts coming from the Ministry of Economic Affairs. So, Mr. Toltev, please tell us a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, my name is Helge Toltev. I'm born in East Germany. At that time, I never made it into this building. I did my studies in Bulgaria in international economic relations and worked as a young professional in the then Ministry of Foreign Trade of former GDR. And I was one of the lucky people who were taken to the Federal Ministry of Economics. At that time, we had a number of around about 6,000 civil servants running this planned economy, and out of them, 45 were taken over to Bonn. And there I started with Eastern Europe and transition challenges. I spent a while with Asia Pacific when our government created in 1993 this federal strategy on Asia Pacific, and the APA was founded. I ran for 3 years in a German embassy in Manila, the economic department. After this, I spent a couple of years with the Secretary of State, and almost 10 or 11 years I spent my time with Southeastern Europe enlargement questions and Turkey, and I'm quite happy with this because I spent a long time already, and so you can see how things change in the factual numbers. If you're looking for our trade volumes with Turkey, so we have doubled our trade in the last 15 years, starting with this century. If you go back 20 years, we have 4 times in the volume. So we have good dynamics, but we have the strong feeling that we exhausted the quantitative factors of growth, rehabilitation of huge infrastructure, and creating of new infrastructures. So there are a few big projects to come in Turkey in preparation of the 100-year anniversary of the Republic. But so far, we are looking into the more qualitative factors of growth. We used to have this German-Turkish Cooperation Council under the auspices of the foreign ministers, or combined or embedded with foreign political consultations. We had 3 working groups: trade, industrial cooperation, and tourism. The numbers show that it does not work bad, but we thought that time is come to have a new structure, to create new structures which fit into the global challenges Mr. Uçok described. So we have now established a German-Turkish Energy Forum, where we had the first meeting in 2013 in Ankara, which meets a lot of attention from business communities of both sides, and where we're discussing all aspects of energy politics, starting with rehabilitation of coal combustion factories, coal mining, security in coal mining, up to renewable energy and regulatory questions and stabilization of grids. So this is one of the future sectors where we we have set up a proper institutional frame for closer cooperation, and this is well received by the business communities, but also by the scientists and researchers. The second pillar, we have it on paper created, but so we will see the first meeting of our JETCO. It sounds very dynamic, Joint Economic Trade Commission. And there we are really going to focus on the future challenges both economies are facing. I just want to mention the negotiations about TTIP, for example, but also the further development of the customs union between Europe and Turkey, where we do have since last year a study sponsored by the World Bank how to further develop this customs union. And we will certainly look into the different sectors of industry where we can collaborate and how we can foster our economic relations. And so far, I think we have established very good platforms, and our intention is to have a sustained cooperation and work in the different working groups in this frame. I welcome very much an initiative like this scientific year, but somehow you really have also to look how to organize the process afterwards and to keep momentum. And so far, it's a little bit pity that our colleague from the Ministry of Sciences is not yet here to explain a little bit how their ideas are about this.
Okay, thank you very much for this overview. So I would like to come back to the question of Minister Shawan that you mentioned before. So when you think about innovation and choosing an innovation partner, Germany is talking to many different potential partners, and the big question is what is in there for the German taxpayer if we focus on Turkey? So I think that's a relevant question that provides interesting answers. So maybe we start with the ministry and then moving on to one of the drivers of what's going on. So why do you think, what makes Turkey an attractive partner for Germany, and why is Germany an attractive partner for Turkey? Why should we focus on this link between these two economies and not on other pairings of economies?
Yeah, I think the ambassador made it already clear that we have a huge potential in Turkey. And this lies not only in the demography, a great part of young people coming to the labor market every year and looking for challenges. But I do think that we have also a good tradition in sciences, going backwards in our history, just to mention the Nazi regime when Einstein applied for German scientists to escape to Turkey, and he was speaking in his letter about a dozen or whatsoever, and at the end of the day I think it was more than 100 leading scientists from Germany who went to Turkey, and I think there we have the roots for our cooperation, the knowledge and the trust one to each other, and I think this is a very starting point for this cooperation. And if you are talking to people who were witness of this time, like Edzard Reuter, so you're getting really impression that this human relationship between those people are one very solid basis for this development.
So there is complementarity between these two countries. Yeah, Mr. Al-Bayrak.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we have not forget, Turkey has really high potential students, high potential brain. People who are studying in Turkey in engineering, that means they are really top 50, let's say top 20. And they belong to top 20. We need them. We need people like high potential people and create and develop together with them innovation. It is very useful for us. That is, I mean, our ambassador has listed a lot of area where the Turks are very strong, where we can use that for us. Other hand, in Germany, we have an innovation culture. Innovations culture, very strong innovations culture. That means for us, we establish an approach. Our approach is we are funding basic research. From the basic research of applied research, from them through the different instruments to the innovation. We know exactly the way. We know exactly what's needed. We have all of the preconditions here. We are fulfilling all of the preconditions. I think both together, enhancing each other, both together, it is important. As you know, we now in Germany, in Europe, we are running in a problem what we call in German demographische Wandel, let's say Alterings processes, where we need young people's high potential brain, and for that, in the global world, we need them. We need them high potential brain, and hence, which is equipped with more skills, which we need for the innovation. I think, therefore, it is together, both enhancing each other. I mean, I can explain some project what we are doing with the colleagues of the Turkey. Really, it is fantastic. Where we initiated a project, joint project, to develop for the city of Istanbul and a new system which allows them to manage the whole traffic problems. When we started the project, we discussed with the city of Berlin and city of Istanbul. We started our discussion with the city of Berlin. We asked them to provide us some informations, like some information sources where the city is in belong of them. They thought that no, it is not easy. We have several problems with them. It is a privacy issue. It is not easy. It is a process which has to be controlled, which has to be approved from the government. At the same time, we asked the city of Istanbul to provide us information like that. After 3 weeks, we got all of the informations. We had access to all of the information, and we agreed, and we make sure that we are providing a solution which can fulfill high-class security preconditions. All of the security functionality are provided through us. I mean, this example shows that it is, as my colleagues, Mr. Toksdorf, underlined, we are enhancing each other. Therefore, I think it is a win-win situation for both of us. And we are learning, they are providing an environment where we can do experiment, the high potential brain, what we need them for our innovations. We are bringing knowledge, we are bringing all of our experience with, and both together, it is precondition for successful innovation. Other issue what you underlined what will happen after the science year. What will happen? It is. 2 weeks ago we had an event in Ankara. Unfortunately, our colleagues are not here. He was there too. I was with the delegation, and both ministers has agreed. We will continue. We will work out our cooperations. We are going to develop a new instrument which allowed us to continue our cooperation. That means we are interested to work together in innovation, in the education, in the mobility. In the mobility, mobility is the meaning of mobility is very large. What we understood under the term mobility, to exchange scientists, innovation. Not only that, we are going to initiate joint PhD programs. Joint PhD programs where the PhD student can get double degree. That means they can get the degree in Turkey, they can get a degree in Germany from the university which is involved in this program.
Yeah. So Turkey seems to be an attractive partner for Germany because, first of all, you say there is a big pool of talent that might be of help to overcome the demographic issues in Germany. On the other hand, Germany provides a lot of knowledge. So there needs to be an institution in place that make these brains move and work together. So you're sitting at the source of all these young talent and brains. From your personal experience, what might be potential hindrances for people to move into the other country and to really start to collaborating? Is there anything that, from your personal experience, that might prevent people from really collaborating closely? And is there anything Mr. Tolksdorf can do to help to overcome those obstacles and really physical mobility of people going and working together and sitting together?
Exactly. We have several problems on the way to realize mobility. One is the visa issue. Last time when we talked Mrs. Vanka, we told her, we discussed with her, even we discussed with Mr. Gabriel, we told him too. It is, I mean, this is one of the problems what I see. It seems my colleagues in Turkey are preferring Europe, in special Germany, to collaborate with them. I know 6 years ago, when I started my collaboration with Turkey, I was there. I was interested in to hire some PhD students, and was in METU. METU is one of the best university in Turkey, which is located in Ankara. And I had a meeting with the top 5 students, which is really ranked from 1.5 million students. They were the top 10. I had a meeting with them. I tried to convince them to come over to Germany to do their PhD in Germany. Most of them rejected them. Unfortunately, I was not succeed to convince one of them. And 2 years ago, I was there too, and I convinced 4 of them. Now, in my staff, I have 3 PhD students, really, well, the top 5, to belong to the top 5 of students from Turkey. It seems they are preferring, right now, they are preferring Germany, Europe. They are convinced from the.
You mean they are preferring Germany over the US, for example?
Exactly. Yeah. They are preferring Germany over the US. It seems they have understood. It is through the government activities, through the support our different actors, like our ambassadors. It seems they know exactly what we are offering them, what the opportunities. We know exactly what they can do. We understood them. We know them very well. I think it is, we respect both groups. They are respecting each other. And I think in the scientific, in innovation, in the scientific world, we haven't any problems, any discriminations. And I mean, I know when I was in the US, it was the same.
That is very good news.
And we have to convince our government, both sides, to solve additional problems to help us to improve our collaboration. And as I mentioned, it is visa issue is one of the problems what I'm seeing, and it is some other problems. Visa is one. The second is I know from my colleagues when they have family, when they move to Germany, it is not easy to them to get the family visas like that. All of these problems has, I hope, Mr. Tolksdorf
Mr. Tolksov, so what are you trying to do to get more of these talented people into Germany that we need? And maybe also an interesting question would be, are we trying to target certain areas? From my experience, there's already a lot of collaboration going on in the industry of automobiles, for example, but there are industrial areas where there is less focus on a collaboration between Germany and Turkey. Are there any strategic initiatives on the ministry level where you would say, yes, we try to attract these people into Germany to foster collaboration, and we try to send Germans into Turkey? Are you targeting specific fields? Are there any hot areas where you would say, yes, that's something we have on the radar, and we know the automobile industry is doing it on their own, that's something we can let loose? But there are areas that we really strategically should put as a ministry an effort and a focus on.
The answer is yes and no. The general idea in our ministry is, since we have a long liberal history in this ministry as well, that we want to create framework, conditions, and horizontal approach where you really put into your efforts, and you are not so wise as a government to pick and choose who is the winner in the global competition. Our formula was, it does not matter if it's potato chips or microelectronic chips. If the business is successful, it should get the same conditions as others who are competing for this kind of support. This is one thing. And this counts especially for the small, mid-sized industries. So we have some strategic points, not at least to mention the energy politics and the climate change. So there we have strategic targets, and there we are in a very close dialogue in the framework of this energy forum with our Turkish colleagues to transfer our know-how with regard to renewable energies, to energy efficiency in industry and in public buildings and stuff like this. So this process is underway, and this is focused on a clear sector. But we will have also spillovers into other sectors. That's obvious. And the third element I would like to mention is the collaboration with regard to further development of the EU customs union with Turkey, and how we face the challenges of TTIP, because Turkey will be affected by the agreements of TTIP, but is not sitting on the negotiating table. We also not sitting on the negotiating table, but so we are very much closer with the mandate. And so we have really to look into the structures we have now and how we can modernize those structures to face the forthcoming competition from the US. And this is a real challenge, which is sometimes I feel wrong understood in Ankara, also by politicians, because we are not afraid that this situation will bring us to a lose-lose situation. We are convinced that we can create a win-win situation. And then we have to look into the automobile sector, for example, because automobile imports from US will be cheaper and more competitive to Europe if we are reducing the tariffs. And it will be much more harder for products coming from Turkey to compete in the American market. But if it comes to the supply chain for car manufacturing, if it does not go to about a complete car, but the supply chain for maybe German or French cars, who will then be also more competitive in the US, then there's a good chance to create a win situation also for the Turkish industry. This is also important for the textile and leather industries, which is still a very strong pillar in Turkish exports. But we have to develop also the very different sectors of industry. We have one big challenge. This is the protection of intellectual property rights. This has to be made sure in Turkey, and not only for machinery and equipment, but this is also for consumer goods. We have established a special working group on protection of intellectual property rights with the EU Commission in the framework of the negotiating process. By the way, the Chapter 25, Science and Research, is the only chapter in this negotiating process which is preliminarily closed already in 2006, one of the first chapters we touched upon. But we do not have a lot of acquis communautaire in this sector so far. We are looking that Turkey makes also use from the European programs we have in this sector. But the protection of intellectual property rights is one key element, and reliable framework conditions for investors, because I see more or less three pillars for deeper cooperation in the innovation. We have on the one hand the scientific cooperation, which must be institutionalized and organized in a proper form. We do have the industry, the investments. With every investment you are projecting your know-how into the markets, and people get trained. And then we have the exchange of the young, educated and trained people. And there we have the good news for Turkey, that the saldo of movement is negative for Germany. A lot of well-trained and well-educated people leaving Germany to work in Turkey for German companies, for Turkish companies. And this is also a potential we have to touch on to further develop. We had a very interesting study conducted by OECD, I think 3 years ago or so. A worldwide study starting from South Korea up to Mexico. And the question was, what are the factors which are driving innovation, and where does innovation work successfully? And so they described this banana in Europe from South England, Wales, up to Baden-Württemberg and Bavaria. And at the end of the day, they mentioned three factors. Very first is how many of the gross domestic product is spent for research. Second is education. And the third is an administration who is aware of innovative processes and is able to handle it. And this was, I think, a very key position. And I think there we have a lot of room for maneuver also with our Turkish colleagues to have this knowledge transfer in the administrative bodies.
Is there any initiative to really also engage the exchange of administrative bodies? I mean, we were talking about PhD students and people really in the education system, but are you also working on initiatives where you try to really exchange people on the administrative level, saying let's spend some time in a Turkish environment, for example, as a German ministry?
I don't recall such projects, but what we do is that we bring the people from the administrations together in the framework of our, for example, energy forum, and we will see how it will work in the framework of JETCO. But we have a very good instrument which is run by the European Union in this enlargement process. This is the so-called twinning. There, the Turkish government can apply for projects to create an administration which is able to handle the acquis afterwards. And we have a national coordinating point in our ministry for this instrument, and we are sending a lot of colleagues from the federal government, from the different ministries, but also from the Länder and on municipality level into the countries who are applying for membership to give them practical advice how we are handling this acquis in the everyday life. And the interesting point is it's called twinning. It's not created for only one country to advise, but there have to be at least 2 member states to bring people together to send them in such a project. And so far, I think this is a good instrument, and we have to see that with Turkey we are dealing on equal footing. It's not the time former 20, 40 years ago when we spent development aid and sent experts and stuff like this. We are on equal footing, and I think we have to acknowledge this also in our institutional framework, that we send those experts on this basis.
One interesting thing that you said, and I would quickly like to pick up on this, is that you were saying that the brain drain basically is negative for Germany, that we actually lose more than we gain in terms of knowledge spillovers or knowledge transfers in that sense. And therefore, I would like to know whether there is maybe even a risk from the German perspective that we create new rivals sitting in Turkey. I mean, all those German smaller companies, they might be really concerned about the question, particularly when you look at the automotive industry. I mean, now the Turkish suppliers are catching up pretty fast to the technology frontier as compared to what German suppliers could do. So is there a risk that German, particularly smaller companies that are maybe not on the absolute frontier when it comes to innovative activities and cutting edge research, but which are more incremental in the terms of innovation that they're doing, like in engineering, where this is often the case, that you gradually move on. Are these companies at a risk that there is a new rival created in Turkey if we engage too much in this knowledge transfer? Can there be too much of knowledge transfer?
I mean, let me describe my feeling. I mean, as I mentioned, we initiated a German-Turkish Institute of Technology for Innovation Communication Technologies, which is located in Germany and in Istanbul. In each part, we have major German companies are member of the institutes. In Germany, we have Deutsche Telekom, Siemens, SAP, NVB, and all of the major companies are member of the institute. We have at both sides. In Turkey, we have several number of the companies, all of them 10. We have in both sides 10 companies. We have 2 types of activity, 2 types of innovations activities. One is where we are initiating innovations project where from the both sides is industry are involved. Yeah, as I mentioned, we have several projects where we are working together. Till now, I have very only positive experience from the projects, from the collaboration, I mean, between German companies and Turkish companies. Of course, each country has to be very careful to protect the IPR. I'm fully convinced that Germany, we are working in Germany in the cutting edge technology where we are doing the thing in Germany, which for me, all of the cutting edge technology is part of the basic research, where we are doing that in Germany. The Turks are doing for them. Both of them has to protect them. I think we are living in a global world. Global means we have no border. For the scientists, for the experts, it's no border for them. They are moving to the best places on the world where they have the best opportunities, where the best preconditions. I mean, we cannot move them, we cannot stop them. We can try to use the strongness of the advantages of the best societies for the both countries. And I am fully convinced the cooperations will help for both countries. Let me explain with one of the experience what I did really there. We developed in Germany very nice technology, very nice solution. We tried to get in Germany and trial. We spent a lot of time to get in Germany and trial. It was not possible to get the trial. It was some privacy issues, other issues. We tried, we asked in Turkey, we did them trial, and for us, it is very useful for us. We improved our solution. For the Turks, for the collectors in Turkey, they are very happy. They have innovations there, but all of the IPR belong us. We are protecting them. I mean, we have, it is no risk there.
No, I agree.
I think we...
So what you described
We
is
are not overestimate. We have not overestimated the issue of risk.
Yeah. No, but the example you were giving was pretty close to the prototyping process. That is still pretty far away from the market, and there obviously there is lower risk of those indirect spillovers. I mean, every IP right is limited to the learning that is be done when it comes to the real production process. And there are many examples where economies simply learn a lot of know-how by other companies working, operating in there. So there's still the question, Mr. Tolsgaard, do you see any risk of, is there too much of a knowledge transfer? Do German companies need to be afraid that there might be a new rival emerging, or is it a true win-win situation from your perspective?
From my perspective, it's a win-win situation if we can count on a rule-based level playing field with regard to this IPR. I even want to say, let's take this example of automotive supply chain. If there's a German investor and he had an advantage in Turkey with the wages maybe and this and stuff, but he just does not spend enough money to refit his enterprise over there, and Turkish is going to do this. So we are seeing a situation like Schumpeter constructive destruction. So the German who slept well will fall out of the chain, and the Turkish supplier will take his place, and the car production will stay competitive at the end of the day. So I think this is the way it might function, but it has to be rule-based, that's clear, and that is why we are sticking also very much on further progress in the enlargement process, because the more EU legislation acquis is implemented in Turkey, the better the economic sphere of EU and Turkey will work. And so we can also further develop this customs union into other sectors of our economies. And this will really create new dynamics.
So, a positive situation, win-win, as it seems. So maybe coming back to the example you described, so you were looking at something that is more entrepreneurial, I would say. That's a new idea that needs to be developed, that needs to be brought to the market. And Germans always said to be very risk-averse. And if you look at just the global statistics, the share of entrepreneurship among German graduates is relatively low compared to other nations. And certainly if you just believe those aggregate statistics, the propensity that people start their own business is much higher in Turkey as compared to the Germans.
Exactly.
So is there anything that Germany can learn from a closer collaboration when it comes to this really looking into a new nucleus of an idea and developing in something that really carries over to a product that can be marketed? Do you see any potential for Germany to gain something here?
Yes, I think so. I think we can learn from the collective in Turkey, the entrepreneurship aspects. But it is for me, when I was in US, one of my colleagues from Germany, he asked me, why the US, he was there, he visited me and asked me, Shane, can you explain me what's the secret of the success in Silicon Valley? I mean, I answered him, look, in Silicon Valley, at Stanford, all of them, during their study, they learned how they can use the result, how they get additional education for the entrepreneurships. And for me, it is we need different instruments. Once we have to improve our education's approach, that bring like our university, we are one of the technical universities. We have to try to enhance our educations with some entrepreneurship aspects. Second, we can invite people, real entrepreneurs who can guide our students. The third is they can learn through observations. That means they can see what their colleagues in Turkey they are doing. We can use them. The last one, the number 3. That means our students, our colleagues, they can observe them. They can look them how they are doing that. They can learn from that, from the behavior, learn through the behavior. I think we need 3 of them, 3 instruments in order to improve our entrepreneurs aspects in Germany, but we are working on this issue. I think the Ministry of Mr. Toksov initiated a program which calls Exist, where they're promoting them. Our university is one of the entrepreneurship university. We are promoting them. We are supporting that. But it is a culture which has to be established. We cannot push the button to change things.
So what is your take on this? Can we import entrepreneurship spirit from Turkey based on what you have observed? And is the ministry working on more initiatives than the Exist stipends that are currently available?
Certainly they are running quite a number of those programs, and I think we started already also a huge discussion in the universities to add some business skills in the education. But I think it's a different story to start up a business in Germany and a different story in Turkey. So we here in Germany, we are very much faced with the fiercest competition, to exclude US, but European Union, you have the fiercest competition, and you have to know a lot, and you have to convince from your idea to start a business. We are lacking this culture of venture capital like the Americans have. So we started in the beginning of this century with this new market, but somehow it does not work really out. And now we are faced with an elder growing entrepreneurship society, and the kids of them, they dislike to live a life like the fathers and the mothers who run an everyday business. And so this is a real challenge for us to find successors for these mid-sized companies. In Turkey, I feel you can start a new business very easily because you have a lot of sectors who have a potential to develop, where you can go in with a new idea. And we are talking about the Anatolian tigers, and this is because there they started with different kind of businesses in textile, garment, leather industries, and very successful. It's not the clientele of TÜSIAD to say so. This is the big companies, but they are successful because there's room to grow and to develop services. And you really feel, if I just spent some days holidays in Turkey, we Germans are used to go out and say, I want to have a product or I want to have a service, and I ask for this. In Turkey, you go out and you get offered services and products if you wish or not. So far, this is a different mentality. So far, it's easier, but you have to set up the right instruments, and you have to have also the right political setting. And what we see is that Turkey, facing this global competition, there are tendencies to protect infant industries by protectionist measures, being it tariff or non-tariff. And this is poison. This is poison for a young economy which is in a dynamic mood, because if you create such fences of tariffs or non-tariff barriers, you are losing the stimulus of competition. And this is, I think, quite a challenge also in the actual situation in Turkey to define and positive thinking with regard to these global challenges, to TTIP, and to come into a mood of cooperation and not to go beyond those fences. And we also have to see that if you are going to we are very risk aware, but in Turkey you have, if you're looking in the software industry, you have another problem. If it comes to security standards, cryptology, so as Turkish colleagues tell us, this will be done by state-owned companies. And we here in Germany have the experience this can be done by private companies as well, if you set the right frame. Because if you run such kind of software only by state-owned companies, you are getting not the best solutions, and you are paying a higher price because you have not the competition as you have it in the free market. And so far, there are a lot of segments and points one has to look on. We are very, very open. We are in a steady dialogue with our Turkish partners and with the embassy and others. And I think this is a very important point, that we are discussing the issues and that we name the points, and then to think about how to face these challenges.
So there's always the interaction between competition and innovation, obviously.
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland, there's the nice quote saying you have to run in order to stand still, because innovation is driven to remain on the edge of competition. But maybe it's the time to open up the discussion for questions from the floor. So if any participant in the audience has a question to the panelists, yes, please. We have a microphone coming.
Sorry, I have a soft voice as well. My name is Whitney Clark. I'm a student at the Hertie School of Governance who's currently writing a paper that sort of focuses on this precautionary approach that the Germans seem to be taking towards data, the data ecosystem, and these innovation technologies. And I'm wondering to what extent that really serves as a roadblock for being able to find more competitive analytical mechanisms.
So I think you're... Okay, can you please repeat the question again?
In terms of this precautionary approach, to what extent is that more of a roadblock for finding more innovative technological systems that can compete on a more global level?
So do you think this regulation can become a real obstacle to further collaboration when it comes to the innovation, that the situation you described, that the Germans are really risk conscious, and there is obviously legislation also in the software industry, if I understood it correctly?
Yeah, and I mean, if we're talking in terms of TCCI, we have the Article 27, which has no real IPR protections for intangible goods. I mean, most of the focus is placed on the Datenschutz and protecting hardware and goods that are available, but what about protecting the researchers and giving more capacities for them to be able to put into practice what they're finding?
I'm not a real expert, and the only thing what we followed in the last years was the question how Turkey will be affected from the TTIP results or possible TTIP results. And the interesting point was that I think 3 years ago or so, IFO Institute, they conducted a study and they spelled out that you can have a win-win situation on both sides of the Atlantic by 2% of GDP growth if you are only remove the tariffs. And if you are going into the non-tariff barriers and remove them also by sectors, there are different sectors who can earn and grow by double digit even. So this is really a win-win situation. We will see that this impact on Turkey will be slightly different. We have a latest study about Turkey, and so we see that Turkey will have positive effects in the garment and textile industries, and this is to a relatively big extent. Automotive and other sectors will be more or less unaffected if Turkey stays in the value-added chain of supply chain for the car manufacturing industry in France and Germany and so on. With regard to software, I have no concrete idea, but this is a real challenge for us because Turkey, as I mentioned already, is not sitting on the negotiating table. Turkey will be affected by the results of this agreement. There is only one chance, which we saw with other free trade agreements, which the European Commission concluded, is that we have inside the so-called Turkey clause that this partner of the European Union is also willing and able to negotiate in parallel a free trade agreement with Turkey. So then we can get also back on equal footing. But so far the Americans, they rejected this point so far, and they are concentrating very much now on EU, but in particular on your specific question, I have no answer. I have to come back to my colleagues who are dealing with information technology and this stuff.
Professor Albayrak, you're working on IT, so is there any situation that you encountered or one of your PhD students or one of your project members where there was a situation where you produced some findings or some IP that is worthy of protection that basically ran into different regulatory frameworks that caused some real legal concerns about how to deal with the results of the fruits of the process that you were generating?
I mean, in our university, we established an approach where we are applying for patent. I mean, in most of our projects, we are developing IPR, we are applying for the patent, even for the US global patent, we are getting patents, and this is our approach. I mean, we have several instruments to protect our IPR. One is through the patent. The other is it is as you know, in case you are going to publish your result as open sources, you have opportunity to protect your IPR. I mean, it is different. It's several instruments to protect your IPRs in our university, in our labs, in our institute. We are protecting through the patents. We have several patents. One of the major famous patents what we have is for vehicle to X. That means how the car, how you can use the battery of your car for grid, for vehicle. We call them vehicle to X, even for your own need. That means you can integrate the car in your building. Wherever you are, you can use them. We have the patent, we protect it, we are protected. We applied 7 years ago for the patent, we get global patent for them. We have a number of patents
So in practice, that seems to be, on the operational level, at least if I understand you correctly, that doesn't seem to be a big hindrance to answer the question in that sense.
To tell, it is a little disadvantages for the PhD students. It's a restriction for them. They have to write. They cannot publish. They have first write for first 4 months.
Which is a consequence of the patenting process, I assume.
Exactly. It is a consequence for the patenting process. It is only that.
Yeah. So on the operational level, it seems to be not of the biggest concern, I would say, coming back to the questions. Do we have other questions in the audience that our panelists can answer? The president, please.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, you both described the great potential that lies in a stronger cooperation between Turkey and Germany. When you think of what we, say, universities overall, could help to overcome maybe some still of the obstacles, and you could choose, say, the 1 or 2 things that you would think are the most important ones, what would it be? So in the sense, what I described before, Stefan Wagner and myself, we thought of having one Turkish entrepreneur, for example, sitting in our GTEC, in the same way as, for example, you see now many entrepreneurs from all other countries actually coming to Berlin and trying to get started. So what could it be that universities, or maybe also other institutions, what would be the 1 or 2 things they should really contribute to this?
That's always...
I think it is important to provide them an environment where it is the ecosystems, with existing ecosystem. Let me give you an example. Schlossplatz 7. It is a building where I'm located in. In the building, we have several large-size companies. We have small-size companies. And what we did within the building, we provide in the building lab floors. We have several labs where companies who are located in the building, where they use the same infrastructure. We are providing them an environment where we are discussing with them. And I think it is important to provide them. For me, it is really necessary to have an ecosystems. It is, as I thought, one is innovation culture. This is another issue, but it is important to build an ecosystems. That means bring all of them people together. We know today problems need different skills. We have bring all of them together. We have to work the solution which can be used from the society. We call them in our terminology, it is the ecosystem. We have established an ecosystems. It is for university. It is important to establish ecosystems that brings all of the necessary actors together, where they can act together. I thought one of the best example what we have in our university is the connected living, where we have most of them 60 companies. Because connected living, future buildings, things like that, all of the needed skills, beginning from the home appliances, even till insurance company like Allianz and Deutsche Bank and people like that.
Mr. Tolksdorf, from your perspective, if you could choose the one thing that is most likely to have the biggest impact on the future collaboration and also in the university context, what would it be?
Meetings like this today, because this is really very helpful if we can discuss together and exchange arguments about the challenges in the future. Because media tend to exaggerate everything, so people getting afraid, discussing TTIP in a very strange way where everybody wonders. But not only media, but also politicians. There have been voices from Turkish politicians who said, if we are not in the process with TTIP, we will take the consequences and we will quit the customs union with the European Union. Which makes, if you're looking in the figures, no sense at all, because the exports of Turkey to US is 5 billion, and with European Union is 50 billion. So, and I think if young scientists, students, entrepreneurs are discussing the challenges, the matters who are important to us, exchanging their views and arguments, we are coming to a much more better basis, and politicians should take those arguments then in their considerations and should listen to you.
So innovation by the recombination of ideas, which is often a classical description of how innovations happen. I think these have been wonderful closing remarks of the discussion. So I would like to thank, first of all, the audience for sharing this discussion with us. And equally, I would like to thank the discussants on the panel. I would like to thank Mr. Al-Bayrak for joining the discussion. I would like to thank Mr. Tolksdorf. We provided some, or we prepared 2 little gifts for the discussants. So, or you hand it over. Thank you very much. And again, I thank you for having joined this discussion. And we are picking up the suggestions. ESMT is currently starting at the German Technology Entrepreneurship Center. We hope, as the president said, that we sooner or later can welcome the first German-Turkish collaborative startup in this entrepreneurship center that is gonna open the doors, I think, in June if everything goes well. So on this note, thank you very much, and I would like to invite you to the reception that is gonna take place in the foyer outside of the room. Thanks for joining the discussion.